In the cold void between the stars, no sound can travel. No wind drifts by, no collisions echo, no breath escapes the lips of life. There is only darkness, stretching endlessly, silent as if guarding an ancient secret no one can decipher. Perhaps it's that very silence whispering to us, revealing the true nature of existence. We often think silence is emptiness, the absence of all things. But if you look closer, you'll see it's not empty at all. It's the canvas on which the universe paints its grand symphony of life. Everything begins there, and perhaps everything will end there too. Let yourself fall into this darkness for a moment. Not to be afraid, but to listen. Because within what seems like nothingness, there may exist a kind of sound that only a still heart can hear. Before the first light flared into being, before time took its first breath, there was something, silence. Not the quiet of a sleeping room, nor the stillness of a windless night, but an absolute silence where there was no where, no when, and no one. When we look up at the night sky, we see millions of glittering stars, but between them lie vast oceans of black. In those spaces, sound cannot travel, for there is nothing to carry it. Air, water, stone, all are needed for sound to move. But out there is nothing. So when a massive star explodes, its light can journey for billions of years to reach our eyes, but its thunder will never arrive. The universe listens through silence. It records its history not in sound, but in light. That's strange, isn't it? In our world, sound is proof of life. Footsteps, voices, heartbeats, they remind us we exist. Yet out in space, where all those things are gone, there seems to be another kind of reality, one that doesn't need noise to be real. The silence of the cosmos isn't like the calm of an empty room. It's deeper, colder, older than anything we know. It doesn't wait to be filled. It is the foundation, the ground upon which everything else unfolds. Silence doesn't reject sound. It nourishes it like soil cradling a seed before it sprouts. Some say the universe is like a great instrument. Light, matter, and energy are just notes played on the strings of space. But before any song begins, there is always a pause. That pause isn't meaningless. It's the first breath, the stillness before creation moves. You can feel it when you stand alone at night. No sound, no wind, only your heartbeat. In that moment between your tiny body and the vast sky, there's a quiet connection. A part of you recognizes that silence isn't absence. It's the source of everything that is. Humans often fear silence because when the noise fades, we begin to hear deeper things, our thoughts, our loneliness, our infinity. Silence reflects us back to ourselves, exposing the layers we hide beneath sound and motion. Maybe that's why we fill our world with noise, to muffle our fear of the void. But maybe it's within that very stillness that the universe first began to tell its story. From nothing, energy began to tremble, tiny, faint vibrations rippling outward. From that, light was born. Space expanded. Time began to flow. Silence, it turns out, was the starting point of all motion. Nothingness isn't the absence of things. It's the potential for everything. Like a calm lake waiting for a single pebble to fall, sending ripples across its surface. Without the lake, there can be no ripples. Without silence, there can be no sound. Perhaps that's true for us too. Each of us is a small universe, always in motion, noisy with emotion, thought, and life. But deep within, in a place beyond words, there lies a stillness, a space untouched by age, fear, or desire. A space that simply is, like the universe in the moment before the first light was born. Sit still for a while. Don't try to stop your thoughts, and don't chase them either. Just listen. Listen to the silence wrapping around you, seeping through the air, your body, your mind. You'll realize it isn't outside you. It's breathing with you. It's the backdrop upon which every feeling is painted. In that silence, time seems to slow. The boundary between you and space softens. Every small sound, your heartbeat, your breath, becomes vivid, as if the universe is speaking through your body. The cosmos is a vast mirror, reflecting what we carry inside. When we are noisy, it feels distant, indifferent. When we grow quiet, it opens, gentle, familiar, almost intimate. Perhaps that's because the essence of the universe isn't chaos, but stillness moving so slowly that we call it life. We come from silence, live through sound, and return to silence, like the long breath of the universe, inhaling as birth, exhaling as death. Silence isn't the end. It's the loop, the place where everything begins again, in a different form. In the void, the universe is not dead. It's simply waiting, quietly until a new vibration stirs. Just like music, it needs a moment of silence before the next song begins. Maybe the entire universe is just a single heartbeat of silence, expanding into countless stars, then contracting back into nothing. From the void, one great explosion shattered the stillness and redefined peace forever. There was a moment no one ever saw, no camera ever captured, and no memory ever kept. A moment when absolute silence shattered. A breath of nothingness turned into warmth, a tiny spark unfolded into infinity. We call it the Big Bang, the Great Explosion. But explosion might not be the right word, because before that, there was nowhere for anything to explode into. No space, no time, no distance to measure. Only a sudden, indescribable shift, from stillness to motion, from nothing to something. No one truly knows what happened in that first instant. Maybe it wasn't even an instant as we understand it, because time itself didn't yet exist. From that point beyond space and time, a wave began to rise, carrying with it everything the universe could one day become. Light, matter, energy, laws, and all the questions we still haven't answered. Think of it not as a deafening explosion, but as the universe's very first breath, a newborn cosmos opening its eyes, inhaling its own existence. The silence before it wasn't destroyed, it was stretched, unfolding into the space that would hold everything to come. Before the Big Bang, there was nothing to measure, nowhere to place a where. Silence didn't exist inside space, it was space. The Big Bang didn't happen in emptiness, it created emptiness. It was a touch with no sound, no vibration, only the birth of the potential to vibrate. Some compare that moment to a drop of water falling onto a still pond, sending out ripples. But before the Big Bang, there was no pond. The drop itself created the pond. In the first fractions of a second, energy began to expand, not in any particular direction, because every direction was being born at once. Silence stretched thinner and thinner, then kept expanding endlessly. Each new pocket of space carried traces of that original burst. The universe wasn't exploding into space, it was exploding as space. Sound, that most familiar thing to us, could not exist. There was no medium for it to travel through. No air, no liquid, no solid, only pure energy, impossibly dense, impossibly hot, too raw to take form. What we later came to call matter was still just an idea, asleep within the fire. The deeper we look into that era, the more paradoxical it becomes. Silence wasn't destroyed, it was transformed. It became the background for disturbance. Like a string stretched to its limit, ready to sing at the slightest touch, the early universe was filled with that same tension. Silence brimming with potential. When motion first began, the universe's temperature soared beyond imagination. But it wasn't heat like the warmth of a flame or the burn of a stove. It was a state so dense that energy and space were indistinguishable. Everything blended into one continuous note, ringing endlessly. Time, too, didn't yet have a before or after. There was nothing to measure, no rhythm. Only when expansion began did time awaken, slowly, gently, and start to count. That's when silence took on a new form, silence unfolding. It sounds contradictory, but that's the nature of everything. Stillness and motion aren't opposites, they're two sides of the same breath. When you inhale, there's movement, but within your chest, there's a brief pause before you exhale. That pause is living silence. When the Big Bang happened, no sound rang out, yet every sound that would ever exist was seated in that moment. In that voiceless eruption, the first particles of matter formed, bonded, and broke apart. Silence began to resonate in its own way, not with sound, but with light. From that moment on, light became the language of the universe. It carried the memory of that first awakening, spreading endlessly, telling the stories of stars, of planets, of tiny souls trying to understand where they came from. In a way, the Big Bang didn't destroy silence. It taught silence how to sing. It created the first vibrations of energy, turning emptiness into the stage for countless songs. A physicist once said, "The universe wasn't created in time. Time was created with the universe." The words sound simple, but they hold something deeply spiritual. Because if time began with the Big Bang, then before it, there was no before. No waiting, no preparation. The birth of the universe needed no reason. It simply happened. That idea unsettles us. We live surrounded by causes and effects, addicted to asking why. But with the Big Bang, the question dissolves. The universe doesn't answer. It just smiles, quietly. For hundreds of thousands of years after the explosion, nothing yet had shape. Light was trapped in a dense soup of particles and energy. But as the universe cooled, light was freed. That was the true moment of enlightenment, when the first curtain lifted and the universe could finally see itself. From then on, silence began to hear itself through light. There was no sound, but there was rhythm. No echo, but vibration. Silence became motion. Motion became form. Form became worlds. Here's something beautiful. Every sound you've ever heard, a violin note, a heartbeat, the rain, is a distant descendant of that soundless beginning. When you listen to waves crash or raindrops fall, you're hearing the cooled, softened echo of the Big Bang. The entire symphony of existence is a quiet resonance of that first moment, still humming across billions of years. Maybe the Big Bang wasn't the beginning of everything, but just one melody in a song that never ends. Before it, perhaps there was another silence. After it, there will be silence again, breathing in and out, like the heartbeat of the cosmos. When we look up at the night sky, we see starlight. But between the stars lies darkness, the remnant of that ancient silence that never went away. The universe didn't abandon quiet, it simply learned to speak in light. Silence was never broken. It transformed into an invisible sound, one you don't need ears to hear, only a heart to feel. From nothingness, the universe opened its eyes. From silence, it began to sing in light. From darkness, it created the first rays to illuminate itself. And ever since, cosmic silence has been resonating through the delicate vibrations of light and matter, an endless symphony still echoing today, flowing through every star, every being, and every breath passing through you right now. Amid the vastness of the universe, darkness stretches like a blanket without edges. Every direction leads into an endless void, so silent it makes the human mind curl inward. Yet within that stillness, something moves, fragile, weightless, like a breath too soft to hear, light. Light makes no sound, but it tells more stories than anything else in the cosmos. It drifts through the frozen layers of space, patient and unhurried, recounting everything that has ever happened, even when no one is listening. When we look up at the night sky, the light that reaches our eyes has traveled alone for billions of years. These are ancient messages, sent from stars that died long before the first humans walked the earth. Each photon is a fragment of memory, born from the burning breath of a star or the violent collision of colossal worlds. It is flung into space, carrying the tale of where it came from. Some photons began their journey when dinosaurs still roamed the planet. Others are far older, forged in the dawn of time itself, when the Big Bang cooled just enough for the first light to escape the fog of creation. Light never tires, never stops. It moves endlessly through the expanding fabric of space. While humans need sound to speak, the universe needs only light, a silent language without translation or deceit. What's strange is how much light can say without making a sound. It tells us the age of the universe, the temperature of stars, the distances between galaxies. By learning to listen to light in its own quiet way, humanity has written the history of everything that exists. Silence didn't vanish after the Big Bang. It simply changed its voice. Instead of vibrating air, it sends out ripples of light. A symphony not for the ears, but for the eyes, the imagination, and patience itself. Light comes in many tones. The light we can see is only the faintest note in a vast cosmic melody. There are harmonies we cannot perceive directly. Infrared, ultraviolet, radio waves, gamma rays, each a different syllable in the language of silence. Some stretch on for millions of years, others flash for only a heartbeat before fading. Yet all of them tell the same story. The universe has never been silent. In a laboratory, when a scientist turns a telescope toward the sky, they are listening to light. No ears needed, only eyes and a curious mind. Starlight streams through the lens, touches a sensor, and leaves traces so faint they seem meaningless. But when pieced together, those traces form a magnificent portrait of time itself. A dim streak might reveal a galaxy 10 billion light-years away. A tiny speck might be the final farewell of a dying star. When we gaze at the night sky, we're not seeing the present. We're looking into the past. Moonlight left its surface just over a second ago. Sunlight takes 8 minutes to reach us. The glow from distant stars may have traveled for thousands, even millions of years. Every glance upward is a glimpse into a mirror of time. Those beams of light drift silently through space, leaving no sound, no mark, only to touch the retina of a small creature on a pale blue world. And in that touch, we learn that we are not alone. Silence, it turns out, isn't emptiness. It's the stage on which light dances. Without darkness, light has no story to tell. Without silence, there is no place for a voice to rise. In a way, light is the whisper of silence, soft, delicate, but unwavering. It doesn't roar like thunder or burst like an explosion, yet it echoes through eternity. A faint photon from a distant galaxy may travel billions of years through frozen space, through dust and gravity waves, only to arrive here, just to say one thing: I existed. It's strange. We can't hear light, yet we understand its message. Through light, we know the sun burns millions of tons of hydrogen each second. Through light, we discover other worlds, places that might harbor life. Through light, we learn that the universe is still expanding, still singing the song of the Big Bang. Some light tells sad stories, carrying the memories of stars that have just died, of galaxies slowly dissolving. That light is both message and farewell. In every flash, there may be the mark of an ending, but also the proof of existence. From afar, space appears perfectly still. Yet within it, light is always in motion, always speaking, always remembering, as if the universe itself were an endless storyteller, narrating in an invisible tongue. To hear light's story, one must be utterly still, not outside, but within. Sitting under the night sky, if you let go of the noise inside your head, you might feel something faintly pulsing. Not sound, but rhythm. Light whispering through time. Some say that light is frozen sound, a melody so slow the human ear can't hear it. That might not be true in physics, but it feels true in spirit, because light does have rhythm, the rhythm of spreading outward, of never coming back. Each time a photon is absorbed, its story ends. It has completed its journey, played its part in the cosmic symphony, but countless others are still flying, still telling their tales. There is no stopping, only spreading. The existence of light reveals a beautiful paradox. To see, we need darkness. For light to matter, it must be born from silence. In the deepest night, the smallest star shines brightest. Perhaps that's why humans, in moments of stillness, so often find the most wonder in the quiet. Silence is not an absence. It is the medium through which the universe speaks. It doesn't shout or argue. It whispers through beams of light. A language every creature can feel, even without understanding. When light touches you, from a lamp, from the sun, from a distant star, it carries the same energy that once burst forth from the Big Bang, which means that within every photon that enters your eyes, there's a fragment of the beginning. In light's endless journey, there are rays that no one will ever see, still wandering through black space, searching for no destination. But even those are not meaningless. Their very existence means the story of silence continues. No matter how far light travels, no matter how much time passes, it all begins with the same thing: the first silence. A whisper so soft it can't be heard, yet so powerful it keeps the entire universe humming. And somewhere in this eternal symphony of light, there are places darker than silence itself, where every signal vanishes, where light can no longer escape. Those shadows wait for us at the edge of the unknown, where the next chapter of the story begins. Light tells the stories of the universe, but sometimes those stories stop. Not because they've ended, but because they've been swallowed by darkness. In the deepest silence of space, there are regions where light no longer exists, where memory fades, where what once burned brightly slowly dissolves into oblivion. Darkness isn't just the absence of light. It's its own presence, with weight, depth, and rhythm. It covers most of the cosmos, seeping into every corner, like an endless canvas on which light can appear, then vanish. When we look up at the night sky, what we see most isn't the stars, but the darkness between them. Some say darkness is the stillest part of the universe, not the stillness of peace, but of the unknown. Like a vast room where all sound has been drawn away, leaving only the pulse of your own heartbeat. In darkness, we feel our existence most vividly, even as we realize how small we truly are. Among the galactic arms, there are regions with no stars, no air, no dust, no sound. They exist like enormous black oceans between scattered islands of light. Nothing moves there, nothing reflects, only silence stretching into eternity. Darkness is the low note in the symphony of the cosmos. If light is the melody, then darkness is the pause that lets the listener breathe. Without darkness, light loses its contrast. Without silence, sound loses its meaning. In life, we often fear the dark because it hides things from us, because we can't see. But in the universe, darkness isn't just a place to hide. It's a place to rest, to forget, to begin again. When a star dies, it leaves a final shimmer before being wrapped in the black veil of space. Yet, that isn't an ending. Within that darkness, the remnants gather, compress, and prepare for the birth of new stars. The universe has its own way of remembering. It doesn't write in words, but in light and shadow. Every time light fades, darkness receives it, absorbs it, holds its energy within, and when the moment comes, releases it in a new form. Forgetting in the universe isn't loss, it's transformation. Think of the places light can't reach, the dense cores of nebulae, where dust grows thick enough to block every ray. In that darkness, lonely atoms find each other, bond, form molecules, and eventually a new star is born. From concealment comes radiance. From forgetting, new memory arises. Darkness doesn't oppose light, it nurtures it. Every time light dissolves, darkness becomes its resting place, its cradle of renewal. Like breathing, light is the inhale, darkness the exhale, together forming the rhythm of the cosmos. But darkness carries an even deeper meaning: forgiveness. Everything that once burned, that once shone, is ultimately embraced by the dark. It doesn't distinguish between a giant star or a speck of dust. It takes them all in. No judgment, no resistance, returning everything to the whole. In darkness, all boundaries fade, as if nothing had ever been apart. We tend to link darkness with loss, but in the stillness of the universe, it's the gentlest of all embraces. It doesn't demand, it doesn't scream, it simply waits, quietly receiving all that has finished its journey. Perhaps that's why so many ancient cultures saw darkness not as an end, but as the origin of creation itself. When you gaze into the black space between the stars, you're looking into the realm of forgetting, where everything pauses to be remembered in another way. A star may vanish from sight, but its energy never dies. It only changes form, drifting through the cosmic dark, waiting to tell a new story, somewhere, sometime. In the dark, silence isn't emptiness. It's the slow breathing of time. Everything seems still, yet beneath that stillness, movement continues, subtle, patient, without the need to be seen. It's the universe's sleep, where all noise fades, all light rests, preparing for another dawn. Perhaps we only recognize the beauty of light when faced with darkness. Their contrast isn't just visual, it's a lesson in existence itself. The universe doesn't choose sides, it allows both to coexist. Just like in the human mind, where the deepest shadows create the space for consciousness to reflect itself. Countless times, people have looked up at the night sky only to find silence within themselves. The darkness of the universe somehow mirrors the darkness inside us, the buried memories, the forgotten feelings. And yet, instead of fear, it brings peace. Because in darkness, there's nothing left to hold on to, nothing left to prove. Maybe darkness is where the universe truly rests, where old energy dissolves to make room for the new, where all conflict ends, all light fades, and stillness returns. In that space, the universe heals itself. Silence, light, and darkness, three elements woven together like breath. Each time light flares, darkness receives it. Each time darkness deepens, light finds its way through. Together they move in the soundless music of the cosmos, forever in motion. And yet, within that vast darkness, there are places even deeper still, where light isn't just swallowed, but imprisoned forever. Where there's no escape, where stillness reaches its peak, where even time itself slows, almost to a stop. There, darkness doesn't just cover, it becomes the essence. These deep regions don't shine, don't reflect, don't retell. And yet, they make the universe complete, because some secrets can only be kept in absolute silence. Within that darkness exist entities with no voice, no shape, no escape, places where light cannot pass, where even time's gaze cannot reach. There, silence is no longer a concept but a force, an invisible gravity strong enough to swallow everything that ever spoke. These are the realms waiting for us to take the next step, the journey into the very heart of absolute silence. In the grand symphony of the cosmos, there is a note you cannot hear, a vibration you cannot see, yet it makes all of space tremble in silence. That deep, invisible note has a name, the black hole. No light escapes it, no sound emerges from within. Only an absolute darkness remains, where the familiar rules of our universe are stretched to their very limits. A black hole does not shine, does not reflect, does not speak. It simply exists, the physical embodiment of pure silence. To the universe, a black hole is where all motion stops, a place where energy, matter, light, everything that ever was falls in and never returns. Once something crosses its invisible boundary, the event horizon, nothing means what it used to. There is no before, no after, no inside, no outside. When a massive star dies, gravity in its core collapses inward, crushing everything so tightly that atoms dissolve and nuclei shrink into a point with no volume, but immense mass. That's the moment a black hole is born. There is no explosion, no flash of light, only a deep cosmic silence, a tear in the fabric of space and time itself. People often say black holes devour everything, but that's not quite true. They don't eat or destroy in the usual sense. They bend space so severely that every possible path leads inward. No matter how fast something moves, it eventually stops before that pull, as if the universe itself takes a slow breath, drawing everything toward the center of silence. The silence inside a black hole isn't the absence of sound. It's the end of sound's very possibility. There's no medium left for waves to travel, no time for echoes to unfold. Everything is crushed until there's no distance between cause and effect. In a way, even silence is distorted there. From afar, though, a black hole doesn't look terrifying. It appears as a perfect, dark circle, outlined by light bent around it, like a warped mirror reflecting its own stillness. The light can't escape, but it lingers, circling in a faint glowing ring called the accretion disk. That halo is light's final farewell before disappearing forever. To gaze upon a black hole is to peer into the universe's memory, a place where everything is gathered, compressed, and quieted, but not lost. It's a diary that can never be opened, storing every story that has fallen inside, sealed in perfect silence. Perhaps the universe needs such places to keep its secrets. A black hole doesn't just warp space, it bends time itself. Near its edge, time slows down, as if the cosmos hesitates, unwilling to let any moment pass. To a distant observer, anything falling toward it appears to freeze at the boundary, never quite crossing. Time there seems to stop. Inside, though, everything may still be falling, endlessly, in a present that never ends. And that's the paradox. A black hole is both an ending and a beginning. It ends every journey of light, yet may open paths we don't yet understand. Some physicists believe black holes could be gateways to other universes, governed by different laws. Others think each black hole might connect to a distant white hole, where all that was swallowed is released again. Whatever the truth, a black hole remains the grandest doorway into absolute stillness. And yet, a black hole isn't completely black. It emits a faint glow, Hawking radiation, the final breath of silence itself. Stephen Hawking once said that a black hole is not the end, but a transformation. Even in the deepest quiet, there are whispers of energy changing form, so soft they can only be heard through mathematics. If light is the whisper of silence, then a black hole is silence given shape. It has borders, boundaries, a form, a place where not only sound, but time itself bows down. The black hole doesn't need to speak. It is already the answer to every question about existence. What happens when silence becomes absolute? From a cosmic philosophical view, a black hole is the ultimate listener. It does not emit or judge, it only receives. A poet might call it the ear of the universe, a vast ear that hears everything, yet never replies. Every sound, every ray of light, every scream, every prayer vanishes into it, leaving behind only stillness. Perhaps what makes a black hole so captivating isn't its cruelty, but its calm. While everything else moves and changes, the black hole simply is. It doesn't compete for energy, doesn't rage, doesn't desire. It waits, patiently, quietly, as part of the universe's rhythm. Look closely enough, and you might see yourself in it. Humans, too, carry small black holes inside, pockets of silence where we store memories, fears, and unspoken things. The more we resist them, the deeper we sink. But like the cosmos, sometimes we must let those inner voids exist. Not every darkness is loss. Some places are dark simply because they don't need light. The black hole's existence reminds us of the limits of understanding. Even with images, measurements, and equations, we still cannot know what truly happens inside. It's a place where language, theory, and imagination all reach their own event horizons. Perhaps within, even before and after dissolve. leaving only pure stillness, where time listens to itself. In a sense, the black hole is the heart of silence. It beats so slowly no one can measure it, yet its rhythm echoes through the universe. Each time a star is swallowed, the cosmos loses a sound and gains a deeper stillness. Though a black hole seems like the period at the end of everything, its boundary is where the universe begins to whisper again. Faint signals, leftover radiation, strange warps of space, all like murmurs through the crack between existence and nothingness. And from that edge of absolute silence, another secret awaits. A message, not spoken, but carried in the ripples of space itself. The universe, it seems, is still telling its story. In the universe's perception, silence is never complete. Even in the darkest corners, in the deepest voids where nothing escapes, there is always a breath. Fragile, almost impossible to believe in, yet enough to prove that even silence is alive. The first person to hear that breath was Stephen Hawking. Not with his ears, but with a mind bold enough to look straight into the places where even light refuses to go. In his world, where mathematics became the ears of the cosmos, he discovered that black holes, the ultimate symbol of stillness, are not truly silent. They whisper, ever so softly, with a kind of light that only those who know how to listen can perceive. According to his theory, the space around a black hole isn't empty. It teems with pairs of tiny particles constantly appearing and vanishing. In fleeting moments, one particle falls into the hole while the other escapes. To an outside observer, it seems as though the black hole is radiating energy. But in truth, it's just a small tear in the fabric of stillness, a place where the universe exhales. This phenomenon is known as Hawking radiation. It's so faint that a typical black hole would take billions of years to emit enough for us to detect. Yet its meaning goes far beyond numbers, because it tells us that even in absolute silence, there is motion. Nothing truly stands still. No silence lasts forever. Hawking once said that black holes aren't completely black. They glow faintly, like the dying embers of a fading fire. It's the light of farewell, the last breath of a thing dissolving into nothingness, yet still strong enough to speak one final word. A word without sound, without language, only the dim pulse of existence itself. Picture this: in the vast emptiness of space, a colossal black hole, quiet as the universe's own sleep, still breathes out a thin wisp of energy. Each fragile particle drifts away, fading into the dark, like the last warmth of a candle in an empty room. The scene isn't tragic. It's beautiful, in the way acceptance is beautiful. What Hawking discovered wasn't just a law of physics. It was a philosophy, that even things swallowed by darkness have their own voice. That silence isn't an ending, but a transformation, so subtle that all that remains is the breath of energy itself. The universe is never truly quiet. It only speaks in whispers. As a black hole emits Hawking radiation, it slowly loses mass, gradually, almost imperceptibly. Over trillions of years, it shrinks, dims, and then disappears completely. But in that disappearance, energy isn't lost. It returns to the universe, dissolving back into the silence from which it came, as if the cosmos were gently tidying itself with a soft exhale. The vanishing of a black hole suggests something profound. Nothing is ever truly lost. It merely transforms into another kind of stillness, a lighter, brighter quiet, no longer bound by form. Perhaps that's the universe's way of saying thank you before closing one of its chapters. People often call Hawking radiation the echo of a black hole. But it isn't a sound. It's a ghostly presence, like a memory resonating in the mind. It reminds us that every silence, no matter how deep, contains a seed of life waiting for its chance to speak. Maybe that's why the universe has never stopped singing. In our human world, we have our own black holes, memories that seem swallowed by time, moments we believe have nothing left to say. And yet sometimes, in the quiet of night, a small echo rises from the past. A fleeting image, a feeling, a thought, like Hawking radiation in the soul. Proof that no silence is perfect. Even when we try to forget, memory still glows, faintly but surely. Hawking's story is also a testament to the power of listening to silence. As his body gradually lost movement and only his computer-generated voice remained, the world heard him more clearly than ever. From a body growing quiet, he made the universe speak. Perhaps that's why his theory became one of the most delicate symphonies humanity has ever heard from silence. What makes Hawking radiation special isn't just how it reshapes our idea of black holes. It's what it tells us about silence itself. That every stillness has its limit. Space, time, matter, they all know how to say goodbye. Even if that goodbye is faint and far away, it's still a voice. In the universe, even death knows how to speak. Thanks to Hawking, the silence of black holes became a silence with rhythm, a rhythm so slow yet undeniably real, like the heartbeat of the cosmos pulsing once every billion years, then resting again. Each particle of radiation is a tiny breath, proof that even where light cannot reach, life has not fully let go. Hawking once wrote, "Black holes ain't as black as they are painted. They are not the eternal prisons they were once thought to be." That sentence feels like a smile in the dark. Nothing can be kept forever. Not light, not shadow, not even silence. Everything must let go. The more you think about it, the clearer it becomes that the universe isn't cruel. It's honest. It keeps its silence just long enough to give birth to awareness, then returns everything to where it began. Between those two extremes, everything is alive, burning, breathing. The black holes fading in the dark, releasing those fragile breaths, are the universe's message, that every silence has an echo. No ending is complete, because even in loss, some small piece of energy continues on, traveling, merging into the invisible music of space. Hawking's echo isn't a sound the ear can hear, but a vibration the mind can feel. A reminder that silence, no matter how deep, is still part of the universe's conversation. From the place where nothing escapes comes a farewell, small but eternal. Maybe that's how the universe reminds us that no silence is to be feared, because within silence there is always an echo. And that echo, no matter how faint, will keep traveling, across darkness, across time, like the final warmth of a soul dissolving among the stars. From this absolute stillness, we hear the universe's next question. One day, when space itself stops expanding, when the cosmos finally stops breathing, where will that silence go? One day, far in the future, nothing will move anymore. No more light, no more echoes of stars, no more sparks of energy colliding to create life. Everything will slow down, fade, and finally stop. The universe, once bursting silently into existence, glowing with countless colors, will cool like a forgotten cup of tea on a table. Cosmologists call that moment the heat death of the universe. The phrase sounds sterile, but behind it lies a scene so quiet it feels almost meditative. It's not a collapse, not a violent explosion, but a gradual dimming of energy. Every photon stretches a little farther, weakens a little more, until it can no longer light anything at all. For now, the universe is still expanding. Space itself is swelling, stretching everything within it. Galaxies drift apart like islands separated by an ocean of nothingness. The more space expands, the thinner the energy becomes, and the colder it gets. From billions of degrees in its fiery youth, the cosmos has cooled to just a few degrees above absolute zero, so cold that motion itself seems to be only a memory. That future will last for trillions of years. The final stars, the red giants, the lingering embers of a younger universe, will burn through their last of fuel. They will shrink, fade, and become cold ashes drifting in the dark. No light to guide matter, no energy to feed motion. What remains will be darkness, not the darkness of fear, but the darkness of rest. The heat death doesn't happen in an instant. It's more like a slow, quiet symphony, where every note fades away one by one. A cosmic melody with no crescendo, only a long decrescendo dissolving into stillness. When energy spreads evenly everywhere, when there's no imbalance left to create work, motion will cease. The universe, in essence, will become still. No more flow, no more exchange, no more difference from which stories can arise. It will be absolute silence, not because everything has died, but because there's no longer any distinction between living and dead. Everything will blend together. No more hot or cold, light or dark, being or not being. Only perfect sameness, stretching endlessly across the void. A state of perfect balance and perfect quiet. To us, that idea feels tragic. We're used to life, to movement, to contrast. A universe so still that nothing ever changes sounds like a cosmic heartbreak. But perhaps on another level, it's a return. The universe's final exhale after trillions of years of activity, now allowed to rest. No more expansion, no more burning, no more rebirth. Only a clear, serene stillness, an eternal sleep. When we think of silence, we often think of loss. But in the heat death, silence doesn't mean that. It means balance. All energy evenly spread, no place with more, no place with less. Everything perfectly equal. In nature's eyes, that's perfect fairness. From the standpoint of physics, the heat death is the result of entropy, the natural tendency for all systems to drift toward disorder, toward the maximum spread of energy. But seen through the lens of meditation, it's the opposite, not chaos, but calm. The universe, after endless collisions and explosions, returning to its most peaceful state, where no boundaries remain between parts. Perhaps the universe is walking the same path as every living being, born, growing, shining, and then resting. The fading of the stars isn't something to fear. It's the last breath of a giant organism, a long, slow breath spreading across space before everything falls into silence. Imagine the distant galaxies, each holding hundreds of billions of suns. One by one, every star, every planet, every ray of light will fade away. The last light leaving a galaxy will stretch so far that it becomes indistinguishable from darkness. Then there will be nothing left to see, nothing to hear, only cold, quiet particles drifting endlessly through the vastness. An ocean of stillness without shore. In that stillness, even the concept of time loses meaning. Without change, without energy flowing anywhere, time has nothing to measure. It doesn't stop because it's blocked. It stops because there's nothing left to count. The universe returns to how it was before the Big Bang. No sound, no light, only quiet. But this time, the silence carries memory, the echo of everything that once was. It's as if the universe closes its eyes after a long journey, a dreamless, soundless sleep, yet not empty. Because within each lingering particle of energy still lives the story of everything that ever existed. Stars, planets, life, thoughts, dreams. All once resonant, now quiet together. From this view, the heat death isn't the end of everything, but the unification of everything. A harmony of silence. A choir with no sound. Maybe that's the deepest nature of cosmic stillness. Not the absence of voices, but the moment when all voices become one. This final quiet isn't frightening. It doesn't come as a crash or a sudden end. It arrives softly, like mist, like a cool blanket settling over the sky. No one will witness it, because there will be no one left to witness. But if it could be felt, perhaps it would be beautiful. The universe, after eons of brilliance, finally at peace. When the cosmos cools to its last whisper, we might wonder, is that truly the end, or just a pause? A deep breath between two cycles? Because in the heart of all things, stillness never lasts forever. From absolute darkness, maybe, a new tremor will someday rise. A single spark, enough to wake space from its slumber and rekindle the song of light. But before thinking of that, we can simply linger here, in this moment where the universe cools, where everything falls into quiet, to listen deeply to the silence of eternal balance. In that silence, there is no pain, no fear, no longing, only serenity, spread across all things. A universe that has fulfilled its purpose, now resting in peace. And from that peace, a question drifts upward, soft as smoke, when the darkness covers everything. Does something within it still dare to dream? Perhaps in the deepest silence of the cosmos, the first thing to stop isn't light, but time itself. Not because it's been killed, but because it simply has no reason to keep going. Time, in truth, has never been a river flowing from past to future, as humans like to imagine. It doesn't move. It doesn't pause in the present. Time is just the way we arrange change, a mental ruler that helps us understand that something has happened and something else is about to. It exists only because motion exists, because one moment differs from the next. When change ceases, time dissolves, like mist vanishing from a still lake when the wind dies down. In a cold, quiet universe, where all energy has spread evenly and nothing stirs, time has nothing left to measure. There's no before, no after, only an endless, unchanging now. A plane of stillness so pure that the line between moment and eternity disappears. When we imagine time stopping, we usually picture a frozen world, everything suspended mid-motion. But in a deeper sense, it's not a moment held still. It's the complete unraveling of the very idea of moments. There is no standing still because there's no one left to stand. No waiting because there's nothing left to wait for. Everything blends into a single state of being, silent, absolute, directionless, and without rhythm. Physicists say that time is a dimension, much like the 3 dimensions of space we live in. It can curve, stretch, slow down near a black hole, or expand as the universe grows. But when all motion stops, when energy no longer flows, the structure of time collapses. Not because it's destroyed, but because there's nothing left to hold it together. Like a string gone slack, the music fades away. You could say that time is simply the rhythm of change. Without change, there's no rhythm. Without rhythm, no song. The world doesn't stop. The song just ends, leaving behind a clear, crystalline silence. On the human scale, this idea is nearly impossible to grasp. Everything within us is in motion. Our cells, our thoughts, our breath. We are creatures of time, born from it, aging within it, and dissolving back into it. To imagine existence without time is like trying to hear the sound of absolute silence. The mind will invent noise just to fill the void. But from the universe's point of view, that would be perfect peace. In the instant when time falls apart, there is no longer conflict between is and was. No more questions of when, only now. A now that doesn't fade, doesn't pass, and needs no clock to define it. Ancient thinkers once said that time is the shadow of motion. When motion ceases, the shadow disappears. What remains is the thing itself, bare, still, untouched by any pull. Perhaps that's what the universe is moving toward. Not destruction, but a return to its pure essence, where the difference between movement and stillness, between before and after, no longer exists. In Eastern philosophy, there's a concept that echoes this: no mind. A state where the mind stops chasing past and future, leaving only pure presence. When one reaches that state, time inside them stops counting. Everything still exists, but it's no longer felt through before and after. Only quiet being remains. Maybe, on a cosmic scale, the universe too is moving towards such a no-mind state. Try to listen, even just in imagination. In silence, we still sense time passing, through heartbeats, through breaths, through the faintest stir of air. But when every motion ends, when even the smallest shift in temperature stops, that feeling disappears. No more 1 second ago, no more 1 second later. No sequence, no chain. Everything becomes a single, living still image, not dead, but existing beyond the need to move. This stillness isn't death, because death still implies a before and after. It's something beyond both, an existence that simply is. You could say that when time stops counting, the universe reaches perfect serenity. No anxiety, no forward rush, no backward glance. Everything is exactly where it should be, flawless in its silence. It's a stillness without borders or intent, a natural quiet, like the last breath melting into the void, no longer needing to be called the last. And perhaps in that moment, the universe doesn't stop. It completes itself. When there's nothing left to count or to change, it means nothing is missing. Everything that could ever happen has already fulfilled its purpose. Just like when a song ends, no one says music has died. It's simply finished saying what it had to say. The end of time isn't a malfunction, but a fulfillment. A sleep so deep that even dreams have no need to exist. A silence that no longer seeks to be filled. And within that silence, something strange might remain: awareness. Because awareness, in some sense, is the ability to feel the now. If now stretches into infinity, awareness no longer feels itself moving. It becomes part of the stillness itself. Perhaps in the universe's final quiet, consciousness doesn't vanish but dissolves, merging into that calm. No observer, no observed, only presence. The stopping of time is something humanity has never experienced. Yet we can glimpse it in our deepest moments of stillness, when we sit in the dark, take a slow breath, let go of every thought, and feel everything pause. No this minute or the next, only silence flowing through the heart. Maybe, on the cosmic scale, it will happen again. Not within us, but across all of space. A single, immense breath, finally still. When time stops counting, there is no yesterday or tomorrow. Everything remains suspended within one vast, unmoving picture, the picture of pure existence. Perhaps that's what physicists mean when they speak of the block universe, where every moment exists all at once, and none flee from the others. Only we, bound by perception, feel as if we're passing through it. But when motion fades, the passing fades too. The universe returns to itself. No more ticking, no more hands, no more rhythm. Only deep, pristine silence, without beginning, without end. And within that silence, a whisper rises in the mind. If time no longer exists, can consciousness, the one that once heard the voice of the cosmos, still hear the silence itself? When all sound fades away, when time no longer counts its steps, a question rises softly, like the last echo of existence. If there is no one to hear it, does silence still exist? A nameless void opens across the cold universe where light dims and every motion dissolves into stillness. Only pure being remains. But what does being mean if no one perceives it? Perhaps silence can only exist when there is a mind to feel it. Consciousness, the most mysterious thing ever born from stardust. It has no weight, no light, leaves no trace. Yet it is what turned the universe from a formless mass of matter into a story being told, a melody being heard. Before consciousness, the universe existed, but without meaning. It became a universe only when someone looked up, named the stars, listened to the echo of nothingness, and found beauty within its silence. Consciousness isn't something locked inside the human brain. It's like a thin reflective film where matter suddenly catches a glimpse of itself. When a speck of dust begins to wonder where it came from, when a fragment of the cosmos realizes it exists, that's the moment the universe becomes self-aware. From that view, we are not outsiders looking in. We are the ears, the eyes, the heartbeat through which the universe feels itself. When we fall silent, close our eyes and listen to our breath, maybe it's the universe listening too. When we gaze at a distant star, it is the cosmos seeing its own light, reflected through this tiny, fragile being. Every emotion, every memory, every thought is a vibration. Consciousness gathers those vibrations and weaves them into the fabric of reality. In that tapestry, sound and silence are just two contrasting colors, each making the other visible. Without silence, we would never understand sound. Without sound, silence would have no name. They live within each other, like light needing darkness to shine. When we speak of silence, we're really speaking of contrast, something consciousness creates. The universe may have been still for billions of years, but silence only begins when a being notices that stillness. A star doesn't know it has exploded. A black hole swallows light without realizing how silent it is. Only when there is a mind watching, listening, does the event become part of a story. In that sense, consciousness is the universe's ear. It turns chaos into melody, stillness into meaning. Without it, the cosmos is a symphony that has never been performed. With it, the music begins. Not because something has changed, but because it's finally being heard. But there's a quiet sadness in that. If consciousness is the way the universe knows itself, then its loneliness runs deeper than we imagine. It wandered through the dark for billions of years just to create beings who could look back and whisper, "I exist." Humans, creatures who love, fear, and fall silent, are the fragile ears the universe borrowed to listen to itself. Perhaps in every breath we take, the universe is hearing its own rhythm. Every heartbeat echoes the energy that once burst forth in the Big Bang. When we sit still, letting thoughts fall away, the silence inside us merges with the silence of space. The two become one, inner and outer, without boundary. The silence we feel is not the absence of sound, but the harmony between awareness and existence, a moment when we no longer stand apart from the world, but become it. In that instant, we don't just hear silence. We are silence. Consciousness acts like a mirror that never stops reflecting. When it gazes into silence, it doesn't see emptiness, but itself. Maybe that's why humans fear silence, because in it, there's nowhere left to hide, only the self staring back. Yet within that same silence, the universe feels itself again through us, like a breath returning home. When a scientist measures ancient light, when a poet hears the wind whisper through a crack in the window, when a child lies beneath the night sky saying nothing, in all those moments, the universe is listening to itself in many forms. Consciousness gives the universe memory. Because of it, moments don't vanish. They are held in minds, in history, in dreams. Without consciousness, everything would simply happen and fade away. But because there are those who remember, who think, who tell stories, the universe becomes a narrative. When silence is felt, it's no longer an empty void. It becomes the background music of awareness. Just like in a song, the pauses give the melody its soul. Without silence, every sound would be noise. Without a listener, the song would never exist. Maybe consciousness isn't a byproduct of the universe. Maybe it's the goal. The entire evolution of matter, from atoms to cells to people, could be the universe's way of learning to look back at itself. A long journey from absolute stillness to the birth of ears that can hear. When a person sits in the night, feeling the silence spreading within, that moment isn't theirs alone. It's the moment the universe realizes it too is silent. That tiny spark of awareness transforms existence from meaningless to self-knowing. Perhaps the universe doesn't just want to be, it wants to know that it is. Every glance, every feeling, every breath is its own whisper. Silence, in the end, isn't something outside of us. It lives in the pause between heartbeats, in the soft breath, in the instant we stop speaking and simply listen. Every sound begins in silence, and every sound returns to it. Consciousness is the bridge between those two ends, making silence not an absence, but a presence. Maybe the universe has waited billions of years just to hear itself through the beating of our hearts. And every time we listen to the stillness of the world, the universe smiles, because at last it has found its ears. There's a kind of stillness that doesn't come from the empty space between the stars, but from within the human body itself. It hides between two heartbeats, so brief that almost no one notices. But it forms the foundation of life itself. When the heart contracts, it sends blood rushing through the body, carrying warmth and energy. But after each beat, it must pause for a fleeting moment, to refill, to gather strength, to prepare for the next pulse. Without that pause, the heart would tire and then fall silent. Just as music needs rest so its melody can breathe, life needs stillness to endure. The silence between heartbeats is one of nature's most delicate phenomena. It lasts only an instant, a tiny pause in an endless motion. Yet in that pause, life resets, just as the universe once paused in eternal quiet before bursting into being, and then, once more, falling still. When we place a hand over our chest and feel the steady rhythm beneath, we rarely notice that this rhythm is sustained by infinitesimal gaps of emptiness. Between each thump and thump lies pure silence, a moment when the heart does nothing, when the whole system rests. That rest isn't laziness, it's what makes motion possible. The stillness of the heart is much like the stillness of the cosmos, not the absence of energy, but its harmony. When energy no longer pushes or strains, it reaches equilibrium. In that balance, everything simply is, needing no justification. Humans often fear silence. When the pace slows and the noise fades, we begin to hear something deeper, a quiet echo from within. For many, that quiet feels uncomfortable, exposing an emptiness they try to fill with work, words, and movement. But the heart doesn't fear silence. It understands it as part of the rhythm itself. The universe, too, has its own rhythm, from great explosions and cycles of creation and decay to the soft breathing of galaxies drifting through space. Within us, a similar rhythm unfolds: the pulse, the breath, the flow of awareness. When we rush through life, we skip the pauses between these beats, as if forcing the song of our existence to play non-stop. But a song without silence is only noise. Perhaps the stillness in the heart is nature's way of reminding us that everything needs room to breathe. Even in the most intricate biological machines, nature preserves this truth. Motion only has meaning when it's interwoven with rest. When the heart stops for that tiny moment, blood has time to return, refreshed with oxygen. That rest makes the next beat stronger. In meditation, people seek a similar space, where the mind pauses, observing without reacting. Both body and soul need such moments to find their balance again. If you listen closely, you'll notice the heartbeat isn't mechanical. It shifts and flows, responding to emotion, to thought, to every breath. When we're anxious, the pauses shorten. When we're calm and breathing deeply, the heart relaxes and the silence stretches longer. Stillness in the heart, then, isn't just biological, it mirrors the mind. A peaceful person can hear the quiet between beats more clearly than someone in panic. Stillness isn't separate from movement, it's the inner face of it. Like music, notes only gain meaning when surrounded by silence. In art, colors come alive against a blank canvas. In life, our words carry weight only when we know when to stop speaking. The heart, in its quiet wisdom, teaches us balance. It never stops beating, yet it never tries to beat without pause. It knows when to rest, to wait, to stop, so it can continue. Stillness, then, isn't the opposite of life. It's what gives life its rhythm. There's something remarkable about this. When a mother's heart beats, her unborn child's heartbeat often synchronizes with hers. That silent harmony is a kind of wordless dialogue, two lives connected through rhythm and pause. In its deepest sense, stillness isn't solitude, it's resonance. When we truly listen to others, we enter that shared quiet. When the mind settles, we can feel our heartbeat more clearly. In that moment, We're no longer just listening. We are the rhythm itself. That pulse, echoing since the dawn of life, may well be the faint residue of the very first explosion, the Big Bang. A cosmic rhythm, still flowing through every living thing today. The pause between heartbeats might seem insignificant from afar, but magnify it, and you'll find an entire miniature universe inside. Resting energy, renewed life, the rhythm of existence. Everything follows this principle. Motion, then rest, then motion again. Without that cycle, no life could last. Like the cosmos, the heart knows how to stop, how to let go. It doesn't fight to stay at peak intensity forever. It knows that stability only comes when there's room for quiet in between. And so do we. When we keep running endlessly, we lose touch with our natural rhythm, with the stillness that anchors us. In a world full of noise, cars, notifications, voices, the silence within us feels rare. Yet each of us carries a quiet reminder inside our chest, where the heart still rests between beats. If we listen carefully, we'll realize that stillness never truly vanished. It's always been there, hidden behind the rhythm, waiting to be noticed. Like the universe, the quiet within us isn't an ending. It's the beginning of meaning. From stillness, movement is reborn. From silence, sound arises. In the moment we recognize this, the heart doesn't just beat to survive, it beats to listen. Every pause becomes a gentle reminder that stillness isn't life's opposite, but its deepest core. From one heartbeat to the next, from one silence to another, life keeps flowing. And just like the universe, amid all its motion, there's still space for calm, for a slow breath, for one quiet moment to remind us, we're still here. Because though that natural rhythm lives in all of us, humanity often tries to outrun it. In the rush and noise of modern life, we forget that peace isn't something to find out there. It's the tiny pause that's always been within. It's fair to say that humanity has never lived in an age as noisy as this one. From the moment we open our eyes in the morning, we're greeted by a barrage of sounds, the buzz of a phone, the hum of traffic, overlapping voices, ads repeating like an endless mantra. The whole day flows in a current of noise and data, as if silence itself has become a luxury, or worse, a fear. In the past, when night fell, people could still hear the wind whispering through the roof, or crickets singing in the dark courtyard. But now, even the night isn't quiet anymore. The lights never go out, the screens never sleep, and the stream of information seeps into the very last minute before we drift off. Everything moves, glows, and begs for attention. There's no room left for the mind to rest. The human brain once evolved to listen to the natural world, the murmur of streams, the wind through the trees, the footsteps of a predator in the dark. Those sounds were rare and rhythmic, leaving space for stillness. Today, sound no longer carries messages of survival. It has become noise. It no longer signals danger or safety. It just keeps the mind constantly switched on, constantly reacting. The modern brain is stuck in a state of permanent activation, like a machine that never shuts down. It's pulled in all directions by 1,000 threads of thought, notifications, plans, memories, and expectations. Even when we do nothing, the mind keeps making noise. Inner monologues, flashes of images, endless questions. Sometimes, the quieter the world becomes, the louder that inner noise grows. Maybe that's why silence scares us. Without voices or images to distract us, we're forced to face ourselves, to meet the spaces we've never dared to enter. For many, that's more uncomfortable than any external noise. Silence becomes a mirror, revealing loneliness, unease, or the sense of being lost. So we turn on music, a movie, or scroll endlessly, just to drown those echoes out. The more afraid we are of silence, the more noise we create. In cities, sound is seen as proof of life. The louder a place is, the more it's said to be thriving, developing. But when noise becomes constant, it steals our ability to listen. The delicate sounds, rain falling, a breath, a heartbeat, are swallowed whole. We lose the simplest sound of all, our own existence. Noise doesn't just come from sound, but from information. Every day, we absorb more data than our minds can ever process. News, comments, images, words streaming endlessly. There's no time to understand, only to react. In this ocean of input, the quiet space of thought disappears. Focus becomes fragile. Everything moves faster, but nothing feels deeper. Sometimes, this noise disguises itself as productivity. We work to the sound of pings, relax to the sound of movies, eat to background music, and fall asleep to white noise. Stillness is seen as wasted space, yet it's the birthplace of meaning. The mind can't truly grasp anything without time to settle. Like water, only when the surface is still can we see what lies beneath. And the truth is, the loudest noise often comes from within. The modern mind rarely rests. It runs on, even when the body is still. Every thought is a sound, every worry a vibration. Inside and out, everything hums. Until we forget that before all this motion, there was once an original stillness, the quiet that gave rise to everything. Perhaps noise is simply the price of consciousness. The moment humans began to think, the inner world grew vivid, rich, and restless. We analyze, compare, imagine, judge. Each mental ripple becomes part of a constant tide washing over the shores of the mind. And in that tide, silence erodes away, like sand slipping beneath the waves. When we lose silence, we lose our connection to the universe. Because the cosmos is not in a hurry. Galaxies spin slowly across billions of years. Light drifts through the void without haste. In every particle, stillness is the foundation. Only humans, afraid of stopping, try to fill every gap with motion. We forget that silence is where all sound begins, the backdrop of every heartbeat, every breath. The noisier the mind becomes, the farther we drift from the present. Noise pulls us backward into regret or forward into worry. In both directions, stillness vanishes. Only in silence can we truly be here, in the one moment where life actually happens. But to hear silence, we must first dare to enter it. Maybe it's time to realize that silence isn't the absence of sound, but the presence of awareness. When the mind truly listens, everything becomes clearer. The wind, the heartbeat, the voice beside us, even the spaces between sounds. In that moment, noise doesn't disappear, but it loses its power. It becomes part of a larger music, one conducted by stillness itself. The world will never be completely quiet, but we can find quiet within. It doesn't require mountains or oceans. Just one slow breath, one moment of listening, one pause before reacting. When we stop, the noise continues, but we no longer dissolve into it. The noise of existence isn't our enemy. It only becomes exhausting when we forget silence. Just as darkness isn't frightening once we know it's where light rests. We don't need to eliminate noise. We only need to remember that behind it, silence is always waiting. That is the ancient stillness the universe has held since the beginning of time, the cradle of all sound, where everything begins and fades away. And perhaps, in today's restless world, what we need most is not another voice, but to relearn a forgotten art, the art of listening to silence. One evening in August 1952, in a small concert hall in Woodstock, New York, the audience sat waiting for pianist David Tudor to begin performing a new piece. On stage, a piano stood ready. The lights dimmed, the room grew still, and everyone held their breath. Tudor opened the lid, sat upright, and placed his hands on the keys. But no sound came. A second passed, then 10, then a minute. Still nothing. All three movements of the piece went the same way, marked only by the simple act of opening and closing the piano lid. In total, 4 minutes and 33 seconds went by without a single note being played. Yet the hall was far from silent. There was the shuffle of chairs, a quiet cough, the wind brushing through the windows, the pulse beating in the listeners' own chests. When the final movement ended, Tudor stood, bowed, and the audience sat frozen. They had just experienced a concert, though no one was quite sure what they had actually heard. That was 433, composed by John Cage, one of the boldest works ever created. With it, Cage didn't just write silence, he made people listen to it. The piece wasn't about the absence of sound, but about the truth that sound never really disappears. It's always there, surrounding us, even when we stop producing it. The work became a mirror, reflecting the relationship between humans and the world, between the listener and their own existence. Cage once said, "There's no such thing as silence. Go into a soundproof room and you'll still hear your heartbeat, your blood circulating, your own breathing." In the moment we allow everything to stop, the world keeps moving, and we begin to sense its subtle rhythms. Silence, then, isn't emptiness. It's full of life. To listen to silence, in that sense, doesn't mean to hear nothing, but to hear everything. It means opening your senses so finely that you can notice even the smallest movements, the sounds that arise not from will, but from nature itself. The rustle of a sleeve, the pulse at your wrist, the slow release of a breath, each becomes a rhythm of the present moment, a rhythm of life itself. When we learn to listen to silence, we begin to understand something deeper. Most of the time, we don't really listen. We react to sounds, sort them, judge them. But in silence, there's nothing to choose. Everything belongs. There's no good or bad, only is. That's the point where we step beyond ordinary music and into the music of being. Some have called 433 a joke, but those who have truly sat in silence know it's not emptiness. It's an opening, infinite and alive. In those 4 minutes, sound no longer belongs to the performer. It's given back to the world. It returns to nature, where sound doesn't need to be created, only noticed. Interestingly, when you really listen to silence, time changes too. A minute can stretch into an hour. Each moment grows dense, deep, unhurried. It feels as though you've reached the undercurrent of reality, where surface motion dissolves, and all that remains is a faint rhythm, the quiet breath of the cosmos. Maybe that's what John Cage was pointing to. Silence isn't the gap between two sounds, but the foundation upon which all sound appears. Without silence, sound loses meaning. Just as without space, light cannot travel. Silence is the condition for hearing, just as darkness is the condition for seeing. Listening to silence is an act of humility. It asks us to stop trying to control, to stop filling every gap with words. What remains is pure presence, without goal, without judgment. When we truly listen, it's not just our ears that hear, but our whole being that softens. In that moment, the boundary between self and world fades. We no longer listen to the world. We listen with it. Practicing this kind of listening is like returning to the moment before the Big Bang, a time when space, time, and sound were not yet separate. When we sit still, feel our breath, our heartbeat, the tiny movements of air around us, we touch that primordial stillness, an ancient balance before anything had a name. Some say to listen to silence is to listen to yourself. But when you go deep enough, you realize that the self you hear is only part of a larger resonance. In that quiet, the inner voice dissolves, and what remains is the flow of life itself. Perhaps that's the closest we can come to what the universe felt in its first moment of being, silent, yet brimming with potential. The strange thing is, the more we listen to silence, the more we realize that sound and life were never truly apart from it. A drop of water, a sigh, the rustle of leaves, all emerge from the same stillness and fade back into it. Silence doesn't oppose sound. It's the rest within the endless symphony of existence. Without rest, music would be nothing but noise. The art of listening to silence, then, is not a skill, but a return to our original capacity to sense the world without interpreting it. In that state, every ordinary moment, the ticking clock, the rain, a heartbeat, becomes a small ritual. We stop listening to understand and start listening to be. Perhaps this presence is what modern humans have lost amid the endless noise. We chase stronger sensations, louder sounds, brighter images, forgetting that the deepest truth lies in the space between them. John Cage didn't compose 433 to celebrate silence, but to remind us that we've forgotten how to listen. To listen to silence, in the end, is an act of love. Love for the world in its simplest form. Love for a moment that needs no decoration, no explanation. In that moment, we don't need to do anything or be anyone. We simply need to be here. And perhaps when we truly hear silence, we might realize it's not just the pause between two sounds, but the oldest language the universe ever spoke, before there was light, before there was time. Maybe everything began with a pause. Not the kind of silence we know, but something deeper, a stillness beyond description. No sound, no light, no movement, only a pure presence, without name, without form. In that moment, the universe was neither born nor gone. It simply was, whole and complete, as if existence itself was already a finished song. Before energy trembled, before space unfolded, perhaps that stillness was the first language. A language unspoken, unwritten, only felt. No one understood it, because no one was there to understand. Yet somehow, the entire universe was woven from it, as if every vibration, every echo that followed was silence expressing itself. When we talk about language, we usually think of words, sounds, symbols, tools to exchange meaning. But there is a kind of language that uses none of those, that needs neither a speaker nor a listener, and still communicates something profound. Silence is that language. It doesn't describe things. It reveals presence. It doesn't explain. It simply is. You can sense it in the simplest moments. Looking up at the night sky, the stars shining through the cold emptiness, you hear nothing, yet you feel something deeply real. A quiet that softens the heart, or in a forest when the wind stops and all sound disappears, leaving only the breath of the earth, of the trees, of yourself. It isn't emptiness. It's fullness, so complete that everything else falls silent to make room for it. Maybe the universe was once like that too, a being that didn't need to speak because everything could already hear it. Every atom, every photon, every particle trembled from that silent ground, like ripples across a still pond remembering the drop that made them. What's strange is that humans, living in a world of endless noise, still keep searching for this. Monks sit for hours in quiet meditation, feeling the movement of breath. Artists stop writing, stop speaking, just to listen to the hum of space around them. All are reaching for that original language, the one we belong to before we learn to talk, to think, to explain the world with words. When we sit in true silence, no music, no voices, the first thing we meet is often discomfort. The mind starts shouting, thoughts crowding in like a noisy marketplace. But if we don't chase them, if we simply stay, something gentle begins to shift. The sounds fade, breathing steadies, the body slows, and suddenly there's a feeling that can't quite be named, like being held by something invisible. Not cold, not warm, just pure presence. That's silence speaking without a single word. Silence doesn't need a translator. It doesn't ask to be understood. When we try to define it, it slips away because its nature can't be captured in concepts. You can't know silence. You can only experience it, like sunlight on skin. No one understands sunlight, but everyone knows its warmth. No explanation needed, no proof required. In a deeper sense, silence might be the first heartbeat of the universe, a pulse that has never stopped, only transformed into infinite forms. Light waves, matter, consciousness. Everything is an echo of silence, translated into different languages. When a star explodes, it isn't just chaos, it's silence singing a new verse of itself. When a newborn cries, that too is part of the same symphony, in a different key. Seen this way, every sound in the universe is a variation of silence, not its opposite. Just as darkness isn't the enemy of light, but the space that allows it to exist. Silence is the background, sound is its motion. Without the background, motion has no meaning. Long ago, humans seemed to understand this. In Greece, Pythagoras spoke of the music of the spheres, the idea that planets move in silent harmony. In the East, Zen masters called silence the sound of no sound. Not a paradox, but a realization that silence contains all frequencies of being. Today, surrounded by millions of noises and endless streams of information, we forget that this primal language still exists. But it's never gone. It's there in every breath we take before speaking, in the pause between two sentences, in that moment before the ocean when words fail us. Silence never leaves. We just stop listening. Perhaps the universe didn't begin with a bang, but with a shift so subtle it made no sound, a wave of silence expanding, carrying the potential for everything to come. Just like in music, the first note can only exist because there was a rest before it. Maybe the universe began with such a rest. The beauty of silence is that it never demands belief. It doesn't argue, persuade, or impose. It simply invites. A quiet invitation from the far edge of space where every echo dissolves. When we respond, by stopping, by being present, we begin to speak that same language, the one the universe has spoken since the very beginning. Maybe that's why in our deepest silences, we feel a strange sense of belonging, because silence is the presence of everything at once. It isn't withdrawal from the world, but complete union with it. In silence, we stop being observers and become the universe's own breath. Silence, then, is not only the first language, it might also be the last. When all sounds fade, when all thoughts fall away, when there's nothing left to say or to hear, what remains is that same stillness, whole and unchanged, meeting itself again at the end of time. A perfect loop, a single eternal note of rest. From here, the journey of silence is no longer out there. It begins within, in the heart, in the breath, in the gaze. Because every human vibration, no matter how small, is part of that same language. The universe once spoke in silence, and now it continues to speak through us. And perhaps the clearest echo of that story can be heard in the quietest place of all, the human heart. If the universe has a heart, it's probably not sitting in one place out there in space. It's everywhere, pulsing slowly through every beam of light, every grain of dust, every orbit of every planet. A rhythm you can't hear, but somehow feel, like the quiet breath of existence itself. They say the universe began with an explosion, but maybe, before any sound was born, there was a single silent beat. A stillness where life, time, and energy were only ideas waiting to wake. Then, in that endless pause, the universe's heart began to tremble. Not with drums, but with ripples as soft as breath. Scientists call them gravitational waves, tiny ripples in the fabric of space-time, born when massive objects like neutron stars or black holes twist and collide. They travel through the cosmos carrying no light, no sound, just the faintest distortions in the very structure of reality. Yet within that silence lies music. Each wave is the echo of some cosmic event. Two suns crashing together, a star collapsing, a galaxy reshaping itself. Everything resonates at once, though no human ear could ever hear it. When humans first detected gravitational waves, they called it the breath of the universe, a deep, slow, nearly immortal exhale. It isn't thunderous like a storm or violent like an explosion, yet it carries enough force to shake the essence of space itself. That realization makes you wonder, maybe the universe is still breathing, still alive, just moving to a rhythm too vast for us to perceive. In that light, silence is no longer the absence of sound. It becomes the hidden pulse of the cosmos, steady, unbroken, needing no display. Like our own hearts, it never stops working, but only in stillness can we truly hear it. The same is true for the universe. Only when the noise of thought fades do we sense that something vast and patient is quietly beating beneath the calm of space. Those gravitational waves never disappear. They pass through everything, through planets, through us, through every atom in the air. They stretch and squeeze space-time by impossibly tiny amounts, yet they are always playing, all around us. Maybe, when you sit quietly on a windless night under an open sky, those very ripples are washing through you. A whisper from billions of years ago, from some far-off corner of the cosmos. The universe's silence isn't like the stillness of a quiet room. It's a living stillness, a silence with rhythm, where everything moves, but without haste or noise. Like a heartbeat in sleep, like the sea rising and falling unnoticed. Perhaps life on Earth learned that rhythm too, in our hearts, our breath, the cycles of day and night, growth and decay. All of it is a smaller version of the universe's pulse, scaled down into the span of a body, a lifetime. When we look up at the night sky, we see millions of stars, each one a story, a single note in the cosmic symphony. But between all those lights lie vast dark regions, where nothing glows, nothing stirs. Those empty spaces are the hidden heart of the universe, because in absolute stillness, everything begins. Matter is born, energy shifts form, not in explosions, but in the delicate balance between being and nothingness. Some say the universe is a living being dreaming of itself. Every planet, every speck of dust, every ray of light, all part of that dream. And silence, that's the moment the universe pauses to listen to its own life. A long, slow breath stretched across billions of years, through explosions and creations, through death and rebirth. Within each beat lies a strange patience, as if the universe knows that every movement will one day dissolve into silence, and that silence will give birth to something new. When we place a hand on our chest and listen to our heartbeat, we're really hearing an echo of something ancient. Our hearts aren't separate from the cosmos. They're miniature reflections of that great universal rhythm. Each drop of blood moves to its tempo. Each breath is a subtle version of its gravitational waves. Life exists not in the noise, but in the pause between pulses. Just like the universe, we cannot live without silence. And maybe that leads to a gentle truth. Silence isn't the end of sound, but its foundation. Without it, nothing could resonate. Just as a heartbeat needs a pause to beat again, life needs stillness to continue. The universe doesn't need to roar to prove it exists. It only needs the steady rhythm of quiet. In that sense, we can feel the universe as an endless song, one without players or audience, without a beginning or end, only waves of resonance drifting through the silence. Sometimes the sound grows loud, when stars explode, when galaxies collide. Sometimes it nearly fades, when light dies, when time itself slows. But in both moments, the rhythm remains, the breath never stops. The wonder is, you don't need a telescope to sense it. Just be still. When the mind quiets and thoughts fall away, a gentle calm emerges, not outside but within. In that space, there's no separation between you and the universe. No inside or outside, no listener or sound. Only a deep harmony, as if your heart is beating in sync with the pulse of space itself. Perhaps that is the heart of the universe poets and philosophers spoke of. Not a physical center, but a state of awareness where we touch the infinite stillness behind all things. And when we glimpse that, something in us softens, because within the heartbeat of the cosmos, we were never truly alone. The universe may be silent, but it is never still. Within its quiet, there's always rhythm. Within its stillness, there's always life. Like a heart, it rests only so it can beat again. It falls silent only to sing once more. Every moment of silence we feel might just be the instant we fall into step with the deepest pulse of all, the heartbeat of eternity. There comes a moment in every search when the traveler stops, not because they're tired, nor because they've reached their destination, but because they realize what they've been seeking was never far away. It's here, in each breath, in every heartbeat, in the stillness between two thoughts. The journey towards silence is much the same. We wander for years through the noise of the world, through layers of thought, through light and shadow, through the expansion and contraction of time itself. And then, at some point, we understand. Silence never needed to be found because we were always within it. Silence isn't something we achieve through effort. It doesn't appear when we force ourselves to be calm or shut out sound. Because in that effort, there's already noise. In the urge to control, the ego is already stirring. True silence reveals itself only when all effort ceases, when there's no more searching, no more resisting, no more desire to become anything else. Then, silence is no longer something outside of us. It becomes the very space that we are. Perhaps this is what every monk, every sage has tried to describe, though none could capture it fully. How can one speak of what has no words? How can one describe a state where the speaker, the listener, and what is spoken merge into one? Just as you cannot explain the taste of water to someone who has never drunk it, silence can only be known through direct experience. One morning, before sunlight touched the ground and the air was so clear you could hear the grass lean, I sat down and did nothing. I didn't try to breathe deeply or force myself to focus. I just sat quietly. Gradually, the distant wind melted into space. The hum of the city slowed and faded. Even the beating of my heart softened, gentle, almost weightless. Then, something unfamiliar appeared. Not joy, not sadness, but wholeness. A peace that needed no reason. In that instant, there was no longer a me sitting there. Only breath, only presence, only silence, aware of itself. Silence isn't the absence of sound. It's the space surrounding all sound, the backdrop against which everything moves. Like the sky untouched by clouds, whether they gather or disperse, the sky remains the sky. The silence within us is the same. Thoughts rise and fall, emotions come and go, yet the essence beneath them never changes. It's the one thing that's never born and never dies. Someone once asked, "How do you know when you're in silence?" The simple answer, when that question disappears, you're already there. Because as long as there's a questioner, there's separation between observer and observed. But when that line dissolves, you're no longer listening to silence. Silence itself is listening. In that moment, everything becomes transparent. The sound of falling leaves, footsteps, wind brushing the window, all carry the same quality. No sound is more beautiful than another, no moment holier than the rest. Everything is an expression of the same still foundation. Life is no longer divided into good and bad, light and dark. It flows as one, natural and whole. When the mind stops, the world doesn't vanish. It's still there, but somehow softer, lighter. Everything seems to breathe in sync. You're no longer standing apart, observing. You're pulsing within existence itself. And that feeling isn't excitement or ecstasy. It's simple, familiar, like drinking cool water after a long, thirsty journey. In silence, all the old questions that haunted humanity lose their weight. Who am I? Where did I come from? Does the universe have a purpose? They all dissolve like mist in sunlight. Not because answers were found, but because they were never needed. Silence itself is the answer, for it's never separate from the question. Like the ocean and its waves, when the wave settles, the sea reveals itself. Seekers of silence often believe they must travel far, to the mountains, the forests, to places untouched by human sound. Yet in the end, they all realize something simple. There's nowhere to escape to. The quietest space is within. Whether in a crowded city or an empty desert, silence appears the moment we stop and listen. It was never gone. We were just too busy to notice. That silence isn't a part of us. It is us. It's what remains when every idea of self fades away. When there's no good or bad me, no success or failure, no roles left to play, no inner voice to reply. What's left is that original stillness. The space in which every experience rises and falls, the route we forgot while searching for ourselves. In that space, there's no need to try to love, to forgive, or to understand, because all of it is already there. There is no lover, no beloved, only a gentle current of tenderness flowing through every boundary. Nothing to say, nothing to do, just to be. Because that presence alone is already complete. When we become silence, time loses meaning. Everything happens within a single breath. The past no longer weighs us down. The future no longer frightens us. Only a vast present remains, where every small thing, the glint of light on the wall, the warmth on your skin, the distant hum of insects, feels miraculous. Nothing is ordinary anymore, because everything is an expression of the same living universe. Perhaps that's the moment when the seeker stops seeking, the listener stops listening, and the universe no longer needs to speak. All boundaries dissolve. In that unity, silence is no longer the destination. It's the foundation of everything unfolding. Every path of awareness eventually returns here, just as every river returns to the sea. Now the journey into silence has come full circle, or perhaps it has just begun. For in silence, nothing truly ends, and nothing begins. There is only an invisible current, gentle as breath, deep as the cosmos. And when we realize we are that current, everything else falls into peace. Not because the world has changed, but because we no longer fight it. In the stillness of this very moment, the universe is quiet, yet alive. Just like us, quiet, yet full of life. There is no observer left, only pure presence, where we and silence are one. The universe is never truly silent. Within its quiet, billions of frequencies are singing. We've simply stopped listening. But if we slow down, if we let ourselves sink into the breath, we might notice the space between two thoughts is its own little universe. And each time we pause, a tiny big bang within us dissolves, returning everything to its original state. In that silence, time no longer counts, sound no longer echoes. There is only the feeling of being whole, weightless, like stardust. Let yourself dissolve into it. Let your heartbeat sync with the pulse of the cosmos. And when everything begins to fade, when consciousness drifts between waking and dreaming, you'll hear the most beautiful thing the universe has ever said, a soundless whisper. Welcome home.